Welcome to Spirited Straight Talk, the ultimate podcast for anyone who is ready to live a life with intention and help from spirit. I am your host, Deb Shepard, spiritual teacher, medium, and author, helping you open up to the whole enchilada, or like we like to say, the soul enchilada, so you can truly make your soul rise. So let's go. So this is kind of odd for us. We're doing a podcast with ghost hunters, and it's always made me curious because that's not something I normally do. However, over the years and even recently, people have reached out and said, "Oh, I think there's a ghost in my house, and who is it, and what do they want to know?" And for me, it's kind of our normal life. We've had activity in this house for years. And part of my job in helping people is letting them know that these spirits are just here to say hello. They're not really here for any other reason. I know I think it was a Facebook post, someone asking about their activity in their house. And I said, you don't have to worry about what they want if they want you to know something. But part of it is they know you can feel them. I think it was that they smelled cigarette smoke. That's what it was. They smelled cigarette smoke. And I just really think it's another layer to understanding that the other side wants to make a connection. And I think also that there are these imprints that they put in sometimes in this energy or vortexes. And so these ghost hunters basically go out and use equipment to kind of validate what a medium sort of does, right? Intuitively. We can go out there, and we've been to some places that have been haunted, or they've, claimed that they've been haunted. And then we've been to places that said they were haunted, and we felt zippo, zero, nothing. And that was it's a couple of places here in Colorado.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a ghost.
You're not. It's Dana.
I'm Dana. I am Deb Shepard's partner and her what am I? I'm your support team.
Team Uno. I have a lot behind me.
But yeah, it's we get a lot of messages. We had one recently too that they were scared about some happenings in their home with a door opening and closing, a pantry door, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they took some video, and they felt like they could see a figure waving at the camera from the door. Mm-hmm. And, I think it's just knowing that they're there and acknowledging them. But yeah,
I think
some people will feel negative stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, I think with negative energy, it's a lot of times, what are we attracting? What are we fearful of? Are we not in our power? Is it something that we feel like it's the unknown? And anytime anyone comes into your home that you don't know, you're going to be fear-based. Mm-hmm. So let's say you have someone, that's going door to door and selling something. I mean, you're not going to just let someone come in and see what's happening in your life. And I think that comes with the energy. What does this spirit want? What are they doing here? Am I going to be safe? So it's kind of answering those questions and helping people understand that if you're feeling those things or connecting with those things, great. Maybe it's time to expand, kind of your abilities, or what can you know about that spirit that's in your home or in your business. We've done businesses as well where there was some things
energy
going on. Yeah, energy going on. But, my entire purpose with this kind of stuff is to say, don't be fear-based. There's answers to it. There's ways to understand it. There's ways to communicate. There's ways to kind of tell it to move somewhere else if they're not welcome, just like you would do a guest. They don't have to stay forever. And of course, after you've lived here for 5.5 years, mm-hmm. You've seen a lot of activity. And it's happened probably for over 20 years where I've seen activity happen. And it's never really been scary. Sometimes I'm like, it's odd, like just having an odd relative come to visit.
Well, what's odd is when you look over and say, oh, there's somebody standing there, and I don't see anything. And then I'm like, well, why can't I see it?
Yeah, but then you see all the other things that we need to take care of in life. So you see the physical, and I see the spiritual world. But these guests that are here have been doing this for years. They've been very curious. And when we met them a year or so ago, I was really fascinated. So that's why we decided to have them on our show.
Yeah, well, let's welcome them.
Okay.
We are happy to have a big group of people with us today. And what we decided, this is kind of a special episode, what we decided is delve into some paranormal stuff. This is unusual for our podcast.
Yeah. We were on another podcast, and JC and I were guests, and we immediately kind of connected. So we definitely wanted to continue kind of doing a podcast regarding the supernatural. And do you want to say who's with you today, JC?
Yeah, I brought my team with me today. We're Extreme Vision Paranormal, based out of Northern Illinois. The team founders are behind me here, Gary in the cowboy hat, Gary Butler and his wife Jenny, who's all the way on the other end of the screen there.
Hi, Jenny.
And we're wearing matching sweatshirts, Jenny and I. Some branding for the team, and then my wife right next to Jenny is Heidi here. So we've been with Extreme Vision Paranormal since 2010, and I believe when did the team get founded? Was it a couple of years before that, right?
2009.
2009.
February 2009.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I'm certainly curious. There is no doubt we have had spirits in our house over the years. I always believe that when I die, there are going to be some haunted tours in this house because there's constantly activity. And before the show, we talked about you guys coming out and maybe seeing what kind of spirits, but we've had wine move across the room. We've had doors closed, TVs turned on, and with the laundry room, faces thrown out of a cabinet and breaking.
Just literally thrown out.
Literally. So
bizarre.
Yeah, totally believe it. We hear them talking, movement all the time. So for us, it's just kind of normal. We tell them to go away until it's time for a reading, an appointment.
And what's funny is your website is thedeadspeak.net.
Yes.
And Deb speaks to the dead.
Yeah. And I've always wanted to go into one of these searches to see if I could pick it up in a different way than you guys do. So maybe at some point we'll have to collaborate and do that. But how did you guys get started in this? I know that there's a curiosity, obviously, but did you have something that happened that made you kind of like, okay, I want to know more about this? Was it more about scientific or trying to say this is not real? What was sort of the beginning of this?
Gary's got the mic.
It started with me. I guess I had that experience when I was a child. I had a quote imaginary friend that I always played with at my grandparents' house. My grandparents used to watch me as I was younger. So I had a friend there that I always played with named Alvin or Alan. So when I grew up later, I found out in life that my mom had a brother that died when he was 18. He died in a tragic accident, and guess what his name was?
Al.
I never knew him. He died way before I was even born. So I don't know how I would ever know that, but he was my friend that I played with.
I got chills, and it's really interesting, Gary, because you're just a dude. I mean, you're not one of these kind of woo-woo kind of people. So for you to be talking about this childhood friend and having that connection and still talking about it today as an adult is really pretty incredible. So did you just start realizing you wanted to investigate if there's more things like this?
Well, yeah, as I got older, actually, I sort of, I guess, grew out of it, you know what I mean? And sort of forgot about it. And then actually saw like one of the shows on TV, the Ghost Hunters, and started watching it, and then started searching about it, and actually joined a group, went investigating with them for a couple of years. And then some differences with the founders or whatever, we decided to start our own group, and been going ever since.
What kind of equipment? I know they use special equipment when they're like, for me, I can just feel the energy, and so I'm kind of like my own radar. But you guys have to have special equipment to go into these locations, right? I mean, what are you using? I'm sure it's very sensitive.
We have several equipment. We have a CCTV camera system. We use voice recorders, digital recorders, cameras, EMF detectors, and pretty much,
yeah.
Dowsing rods. Yeah, a couple of.
Well, I use dowsing rods. And my dad used dowsing rods to find water, so I truly believe in dowsing rods. So when you're using dowsing rods, you go into the home or the location and start using it to figure out what the energy is first instead of your camera and your equipment.
I think one of the first things that we do is, Gary talked about the EMF detectors, electromagnetic fields. The theory behind that is that spirits manifest using energy, and they use whatever energy is in the room. So the theory is that when a spirit will manifest, there will be a higher electromagnetic field from where that spirit might be. So there's a lot of things in life, and especially if you think about it, we're being pounded by radio waves constantly. So what we want to do is go into a room and just suss it out and make sure that, that there's not something within the room that is already putting off electromagnetic fields. So basically, we'll do a quick baseline reading with the EMF detectors, and then from there, we will know, okay, well, this room already has EMF in it. So if we see a spike above what the baseline readings were, then we would know, okay, there's something weird going on here.
Okay. Weird in my world is normal, but yeah, I know what you mean. So when you're looking for this movement and the proof that there is energy and ghosts and things like that, what is the end result that you're looking for? I mean, what is it that you're trying to accumulate, to put together, to prove?
Well, I just, this science is not necessarily science, a lot of stuff is all based in theory. And so that's kind of what we're going on. So, we're always looking for data to back up the things that people are experiencing, or finding ways that we can, so if we've got a panicked homeowner and we can come in and say, look, I understand you're feeling all these things, and I don't want to discount anything that you're feeling, but there may be alternative reasons why you're experiencing these things. So
it's almost kind of to prove yes or no there's activity, or sometimes explain what's going on that may not be activity for the homeowner.
I can tell you a little story. We were contacted by a lady, and her name was Bunny, and she called us and said that her husband was seeing ghosts in the house, and we went out there, and these folks were in their 70s, high 70s, and I'm like, okay, what made you contact us? She's like, well, I got on the internet, and you're the only ones that look normal. And I'm like, okay. And then she explained.
There is that. So I said, you guys look like a normal family.
Yeah, so actually we talked to them. We went in and we did an investigation with some fantastic results. We were really surprised. And when we went back, the gentleman of the house sat there and cried because we actually validated what he was seeing. And it made him feel so much better. We try to debunk a lot of stuff because a lot of stuff is not paranormal. It's pretty rare that we actually drill down and find something paranormal. Anything that you see that we have deemed paranormal has been after hours of review, discussion, more review, more discussion before we'll put it out there. And I'll tell you that it's called the Peekaboo House. And I think we may have some audio or visual
video from that one.
That is pretty awesome.
So when this man or whoever you felt in that paranormal with that family, what were they able to do with it? Were they able to just say, okay, we have a visitor, that's what's here, or was there anything else that you could do to help them, or what was your kind of advice?
After we deemed there was something paranormal going on, I think they just wanted validation that they weren't going crazy. They didn't have a problem with what was there. We determined that it was somebody that used to live in the home, and she was actually a piano teacher. And the way that he was seeing her was she would be like looking out the door from the kitchen into the family room they had built on. And what it was that's where the house stopped when she was living there. So
she never entered that room.
She never entered that room at all.
Stopped at the back door,
right?
Which was actually the end of their kitchen.
Right.
Gotcha. And I find that when I go into homes, the same thing. There were someone that had died there, or
house was built where there was maybe Native Americans or other types of things that happened, and so that I call it residue of the energy can stay there sometimes, and you would pick up on it. And it's sort of like, in my opinion, it's kind of like between the veil. There's kind of like a vortex there. Would that make sense for you guys too? That what you guys see is sort of there's energy that kind of pulls these spirits together.
Yeah, we see a lot of residual hauntings, which is stuff that happens over and over again because of I don't want to see angst, but there's a lot of emotion tied to that area or whatever, and we do see a lot of that.
In the smells and stuff, especially.
Yeah. I know that when I talked to JC, he said the same thing, that people can draw these paranormals into their home, and I agree. When it sort of mirrors the homeowners or what's going on, and I think like what you were saying, this man didn't think he was crazy because you're thinking, put me in a straitjacket. So this is kind of crazy where there is scientific, what you guys are doing is doing a scientific proof that there is paranormal activity. Mine is just my energy that I pick up on, but having the equipment is...
Well, you actually communicate with them in a different way.
A different way, yeah.
So they start to tap into her memories and show her things.
And I think one of the things that, we kind of talked about before, and I just kind of, and I know that this is what I know I'm kind of following on the paranormal side is that, we get a lot of residual, like Jenny mentioned, but on the individual side, I think I found that there are people who just have always had the ability to tap into something else, and they almost, like, I don't want to say manifest, but
in a way, yeah,
they might they either tracked it or they manifest it themselves. And I know that there's the theory of the poltergeist, and it's completely different than the movies. Which is
Thank you.
a poltergeist is essentially something that somebody could be creating themselves, and because they themselves are tapping into something, they might be mediums and don't even know it, and so that energy doesn't even know where to go. So it's like talking to those people and finding out, okay, because once they leave the environment, then the environment is like there's nothing going on in that house anymore. And we've had that experience a couple of times. One of the times that we had was actually one of our paranormal tourism investigations, where we went down to Cincinnati and went to St. Amsville Rectory, which was featured on Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and everything else. And of course they charge admission to stay the night and everything else. But it was while we were there with the owner of the location, several things happened. As soon as he left, it was like this breath, like a light switch, just everything completely changed for us, and we didn't get anything while we were there.
Oh,
so
wow. Huh.
It was...
That's interesting.
Well,
yeah.
I do think that we
slept.
attract, if you think about a paparazzi, you have a famous person and there's that paparazzi, they bring that energy into that. Or someone that's a lonely person, you don't see a lot of activity. And that's exactly it. I try to tell people we're all energy. We attract like-minded, and that's what happens. And I always tell people that I think humans are more stuck in the spirit realms. People go, well, are they stuck? And I'm like, I think humans are more stuck, that we bring energy in sometimes to kind of remind us of those things. So what are some of the jobs you guys or events you went to, or whatever you guys call it, that you were just like, wow, this was worth coming here and doing all this work?
Well, and what's wild is most of the time, for us, it's so boring while we're there that we have to find ways to entertain ourselves while we're there. It isn't until like hours of data review that things really get fun and interesting. Because, I know Jenny and Gary can attest to this. They've done a million more investigations than I have, is just sitting and just listening and, and
so
just,
is it more like in the recording that you guys...
Yes.
Versus actually experiencing? It's
Right.
been recorded and you catch it in the recordings.
Yeah.
We'll just be chatting and having a normal conversation, and something will insert themselves into our conversation on the recorder. We don't hear it.
Recorder, okay.
So we go back and listen. Sometimes you do.
do.
We do hear it, and we're like, "What was that?" Sometimes we do, but most of the times it's on the recordings.
Yeah.
So with our podcast, with all the work that Deb does and that we do, really demystifying the spirit realm and letting people know that it's okay is what we're about. Is, letting people know that these things may happen, but just understanding them and accepting the spirit realm as a part of this world is important, I think. And
it takes a lot of energy for them to be recorded too. For them to show activity and to actually have their voices recorded. What I believe is that they have to take a lot of work, and that's why you don't hear a whole lot, because they don't have vocal cords. So they're giving you information as much as possible by using all that energy, and it takes a lot of energy for them. So I would assume that that's why you guys get small pockets of words from them.
Yeah, it's usually, I think for the audio that we have, like you said, it is just small pockets, and then typically when we take it into the team and we all listen to stuff, we all try to listen to it and find out if it was somebody who didn't tag audio. So what we do is that at every investigation, while we're being quiet in a room, we have rules like don't whisper, first and foremost. Don't whisper. If something happens like a stomach growl, it's weird because when everybody's quiet, right?
Yeah.
Then usually people's stomachs start growling, and and there's trains and cars and things like that will go by. So we need to make sure we tag all that audio, so when we go back and do the data review, we can say, okay, that was this person or this person. But what's weird is, like, once the lights get dimmed and dark, we just as humans have a tendency to want to whisper. So it's like it's breaking those habits while we're investigating, and it's tough. I mean, I know I still occasionally will forget and do it and everything else. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that we can rule out the normal things before we actually capture something. And I think, for audio, I know that the stuff, some of, you ask about some of the favorite places we went. I know for me personally, the Scott Mansion in Joliet is a place where we caught things with our eyes and our ears while we were at this location. Had personal experiences up the wazoo, and then on top of that had audio EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, EVP, that we caught afterwards in data review.
Where was this?
It's called the Scott Mansion. It's in Joliet. I don't know if it's still there. Somebody said that it was pretty much knocked down and disappeared. It's a beautiful old building. Actually, it used to be called Barberville.
It's barbed wire.
Well, yeah, the guy that invented barbed wire actually lived in this home.
Okay.
And he had several patents on it, and then it turned into a girls' school, and then it turned into the Hiram Scott Museum and Tea Room. So, and that's when we started investigating. We've been there a couple of times, and it never disappoints. It's just.
Was it scary? Was it just observing things happening? Did it?
The basement was disturbing. I mean, a little bit. The doll room was disturbing. We would get.
Anytime you have old dolls, I think it's disturbing.
Yeah.
Well, a few old dolls.
No,
yeah,
this was
really
old dolls.
Hundreds of them. Yeah.
Let's see if I can find
Wow.
And
So we're in a room and it's covered in dolls, just covered.
And they watch you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that alone would scare me.
Yeah, that
Bad
gives me chills.
So one of the tools we use is something called the Ghost Box or Frank's Box or the Hack Box, and pretty much what it is there's a theory that spirits can use radio frequencies to communicate, and so basically it's either creating white noise or it's surfing through frequencies to allow the spirits to manifest, to use this instrument to communicate with us. So as we're in this room, myself and I think Anna, one of our investigators, Gary was in there. We're in this room and there's like marionettes on the walls and everything else. It's just the creepiest doll room you can imagine. And so you will hear the Ghost Box, and then we have a K2 right here that's on the floor that it's just like stuff you see on Ghost Hunters. It goes, the lights go up as there's more electromagnetic fields in the room. So I'll go ahead and rewind this and I'll show it to you.
How many dolls are in this room?
So we asked it how many dolls were in the room, and we think it said enough.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I'd have to hear that one again.
do you want to hear
I do
one more
have.
time?
She will.
I don't know if I could
Here.
catch that. I could hear something, but it sounded more,
We play it back.
definitely more like an electric.
They love messing with electronics, though. Yeah. And that's cool.
How many dolls are in this room?
I heard it. Yeah, it's like a little girl's voice.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and then
So they had the room, and they were like, "Hey, let's put an organ in. Bring everybody
I have
over. Party.
I have some questions.
Dance to some organ music."
I didn't know you were showing what film. I'm sorry.
that's all good.
Do you have to record at night, or is it just more quiet for you to do these recordings at night? Because I always thought it was odd that you go at night. Is it not you guys personally, but when I watch it?
Made it more doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
Well, that's from the ghost shows. You usually go at night, because they think it's more scary. But actually, paranormal activity will happen during the day. It will happen anytime. It's probably happening around us now. We're just not aware of it because of the noise that happens or whatever. So, but it is quieter at night. It's usually easier to go to a place at night when there's not as much traffic outside and external noises. That's pretty much. But like I said,
I don't like it that they
paranormal activity happens everywhere.
Yeah, I agree.
That's true. I don't like it that they make it so scary, though. I mean, they terrify you with it, and then you get scared to go to a medium because you're scared you're gonna carry an energy home with you. It's like, take your loved ones back, though.
I always say
Don't
take
keep
them home
here.
with you. Have you guys ever taken a medium on one of these events to see if that was the difference in connecting?
we used to. There was a medium in Chicago who was very awesome, and he made us his team for a while. When he did some of his investigations and stuff, and he had different locations, and he took us out, and it was fantastic. He was really great to work with. So we've gone with him, and he would do like a spirit circle and stuff like that. But for the most part, we just kind of let him do his thing, and we did our thing, and then we would take his people around and show him all the tools and stuff like that. But it wasn't ever like a combined effort, I guess, if that makes sense. Which I guess I guess it all depends if we're on the same wavelength as the medium. So,
Right.
Here's a
so,
woman.
so he was he's a great guy, but he had a lot of flair, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So
He was very woo woo.
Yeah,
That's our word for flair.
So another thing is do you guys feel your own loved ones? Like, are you connected to that veil with your own loved ones, or do you just kind of connect when you're doing this kind of work? Does that make sense?
we've had. I mean, I know personally, I've had some personal investigations that have been very personal. We've all, I think, had things in our. We've all had things in our life, loss, and have had experience where we've lost people very, very close to us, and have had things happen not too long after they've passed. But I mean, I think for our team, I know we had one investigation that actually we did with Ed, right? It was with the medium, where it was probably the most powerful. I mean, Jenny, you were there. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but that was probably one of the most personal and powerful experiences that I've heard of from Blue Star Auto. So, yeah.
Yeah, we were at Blue Star Auto, which was in Chicago. It's torn down now. It was an old auto shop, and it was like a whole city block gone. And another team member and I, we were upstairs, and Yes, we were using dowsing rods, which these guys frown on because they're not. I like them too, but they're not as scientific
Mechanical.
as they said. But another team member and myself were using the dowsing rods, and we were in this hallway. And this building had been a hotel or a brothel at one point in time with Al Capone. It was actually owned by Al Capone. So at that, back in the day before it became Blue Star. So actually we were there and we were talking and we started feeling really weird. And then the other investigators started using their dowsing rods, and we came to determine that it was a person that was stuck there. She was part of the brothel. We asked her questions. She confirmed that she had died during a botched abortion. And, because back in those days, they didn't do those things. And then the other team members started feeling sick. So I kind of jumped in with my energy and my rods, and all the equipment started going off, all the K2 meters, everything. And we told her that she didn't need to be scared. And we feel that because the energy and the way it was going, we crossed her over. My other team member and I crossed her over, and then we couldn't get her back. So we feel that she went where she was supposed to go. And to this day, the other team member is still kind of, I don't know how to put it. She feels sick a lot. So I don't know if this affected her emotionally because it was so intense. But it was pretty amazing.
And we don't typically do that kind of stuff.
No, this was a totally new thing for us, and it just felt right. It just
happened.
It just happened, and it felt right. And since then, there's been nothing like that.
I've done some of those kind of things because we don't really talk about people being stuck in this realm or that they can't cross over because that's just not something you've experienced.
No, but I've seen them, like, I always say that humans are more stuck than the spirit realm, but sometimes I think, like all of us, we get into different kind of levels of the veil. But I remember I was called into this house downtown Denver. It was a huge house, kind of like the one you were showing, and someone was remodeling it. And these guys were working at night. And a lot of them were Hispanic, so they're very Catholic, very much, believe in kind of the saints and scary things. Well, they're working, and all of a sudden a broom stood up in the middle of the room in the hallway, and no one was holding the broom. So all these Hispanic people ran because they were like freaked out and said, we're not going to come back until someone comes in and fixes this house. So I went in there, and basically it was someone that they'd lost loved ones during what's it called, the tuberculosis during the time, and people were still kind of there. So we kind of like what you release into the waves, like, you don't have to stay and hang around here anymore. You're kind of done. But some of that paranormal stuff is just so cool what they can do. They were trying to get attention from people, and we did a hotel that's very haunted too, kind of like when you're talking about it. It was a brothel for a period of time, wasn't it? Did she kill her husband or her lover? Mm-hmm. And when you go there, you could feel the energy where I'm an empath, so I started coughing and choking and bending over. So your friend may be an empath where they're taking on sort of that energy, and they haven't figured out how to kind of release it anymore and carry that with them. And if it's a past life or whether she's had something traumatic happen to her, like PTSD, you can kind of, hang on to that as well. So, yeah, when you use some of those, you kind of remember the experience, correct? For a long time.
I do, and there's been buildings that I personally have walked into and turned around and walked right back out because of the energy.
Yeah. So. And then I go to some places and go, oh, this is so haunted. I go in there, I'm like,
no, it's not.
I don't feel anything.
That too. No, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm kind of bored. So I have a question. Steve, when you were having those experiences, did you all of a sudden want to take it up and tell Judy, like, hey, let's go get some equipment and go find haunted houses? I mean, how did that conversation come to fruition with you guys? What were you talking about? Yeah, Gary. Is it Gary? Yeah, Gary. When did you talk to your wife one day and just got up and said, let's go buy this equipment? And
okay, I'm going to tell this story.
Because I'm like, when you tell your
How do you start this kind of work?
Yeah, he was part of another group or a part of a group, and I used to make fun of him. I'm like, oh no, that's not right. What you're doing is crap. That's how can you believe that stuff, right? And then one night I was home alone, and I was reading a book. My bedroom door was closed, and all of a sudden there was bam, bam, bam on the door, and the door flew open. Nobody there. I get the baseball bat out from underneath the bed. I'm looking all over the house. Whatever. Come to find out, my brother had passed at that time.
Oh, wow.
My sister had called me like 4 a.m, and at 10 o'clock, around 10 o'clock or so was when he had passed, and that's when I had that experience. And I've done a little research, and they call that a flyby.
Mm-hmm.
It's somebody that goes by and they're saying goodbye,
Right?
pretty much. But
Yeah,
so that piqued my interest. So I joined the group he was in, and like I said, sometimes there's things that people don't get along with or whatever. So we kind of split off, and we formed our own group and acquired equipment, and decided we were going to take more of a scientific approach if we could, and that's how that started. But
So
yeah, I used to make fun of him for this.
Yeah. Did Gary tell your brother? Yes, thank you. I knew you could do it. Yeah.
Actually, he showed up at the house during a paranormal. We had a Christmas party for the paranormal group, and all of a sudden the music cut out, and we could hear laughing up in our loft area. There was nobody up there. That was my brother. It was just so distinct. It was crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have that kind of stuff all the time happening, and sometimes when we have like guests or family visiting, they always go like, "Tell them to leave me alone." It happens all the time. So when you guys are doing these recordings, is your hope that people will really realize that there is an afterlife, or that energy continues on, or that our loved ones are close by? I mean, what is the intention for what you do, the research you do?
I think our intent is to help the people that need it, that are upset or scared even. I mean, we've gone to homes and just found high EMF readings and had people move their beds or whatever, and then it stopped because it was just, something in the home.
And I think sometimes there's some, in a weird way, like especially with homeowners and business owners, there's some counseling almost involved too, where it's, there may be things going on in their own lives that is happening that's leads to the paranormal stuff, or whether or not the paranormal isn't there and we're not finding it there, but they're, whenever you talk about paranormal, especially with people, you got to be real careful. And I found this early on in the group is that people will want to show you their paranormal stuff, and by looking at it, it's dust. Right. But if you go to them and say, "Oh my gosh, that's dust," and I just dismissed you, people really want to harbor those, like if they believe it's something, or they believe it's a family member or somebody that they need to know that it's them. And then I go in and I go, "Well, it's dust." Then I've just completely crushed that individual, because they're holding that hope, that family member or something is still watching over them or still in their life, which they are. We know they are, but at the same point, that picture is not that evidence. So it's really,
we have to be tactful when we crush them.
It's a fine line. And so I think, I know for me personally, maybe not speaking for the team, but I know that now when somebody does that, I approach it completely differently and say, what is it that you believe it is? And we start from that, and then just kind of talk to them a little bit about it and about what that person meant to them and everything else, and say, there's a lot of things that this could be, but if that's what you feel that it is, and I hate to say that, like I said, I'm speaking for myself, not necessarily the team in this, but
I think there's a lot of ethics that we have to show up for, because there aren't written ethics, and so you're trying to really honor someone's fear or the grief or the situation they're in. Yeah. And so you do approach it by an individual basis, and I do that with my clients the same way. They're coming to you because it's not tangible, it's not touchable, and so you want to help them be able to embrace it and understand it and even grow from it and benefit from it. So I totally get where you guys are coming from. Each client's going to be a little different, and what have they dealt with in their entire life? So someone's dad, though, is passed that's hanging around you guys.
You should give them.
I should give it. What are you going to say, Jenny? You're going to say something?
that if we don't find anything or any evidence of the paranormal, we don't fib about it. I mean, we flat out tell them that we didn't have any evidence, and there still might be something there. But if they feel that they needed another investigation, either from us or from a sister group or whatever, we will recommend that as well.
So do you go on these hunts too, Heidi? You're kind of sitting in the background there.
I do. I just started out wanting to do date night with my husband.
Now that's a new one. Okay, I'm sorry, but that should be out there.
Ghost hunting date night.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
We had a 4-year-old and 2 3-year-olds. So we were like, any chance we could get to be alone in the dark, even if we were going to take it.
But what's funny is
hopefully all the hands are your husband's hands.
Yeah.
But what's funny is when we go on investigations, I always just leave her and Gary and I go off.
Yeah.
So
Oh, nice.
Their bromance is legendary. So
Yeah.
Their romance.
Did you walk into it, Heidi, as a skeptic, or I'm curious, or at least I'm not changing diapers and making dinner? I mean, what was sort of that interest going?
I went into it really not expecting much. I mean, I had a few experiences growing up, but my parents live in an old house, and, it's hard to say if it's just the old house or if it was actually something. I wasn't really going into it expecting anything to happen, and my first time something happened. So it was a private home, and it was not caught on tape because we were all done investigating. And when we were just turning lights on and taking things down, and I very distinctly, when somebody whispers in your ear, and it was really forceful, it was up, and I thought the person that was upstairs with me was right behind me doing that. And I turned and I said, "Did you say something?" And she goes, "I didn't." She goes, "Did you hear something?" I'm like, "I did." And then we found out that the gentleman who owned the home, his mother used to live upstairs, that when she was annoyed with people, she would psst at people. So that was my experience. And then after that, I was like, okay, that was pretty cool.
So you were no longer a virgin to the paranormal.
I was not. I wasn't expecting anything to happen to me, but I was kind of glad that it did.
Yeah.
Because it kind of opened it. We watched all the ghost shows, and it is a lot. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, it's so scary. I can't believe you do that." And I'm like, really? You're sitting in the dark talking to yourself most of the time. So you feel a little funny about it.
So do you have some more video you guys want to show us? Or?
Pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. What so I can show you, I know Jenny talked about Peekaboo House. I can show you that. We also recently had a team member. We went down, like I was talking about Old South Pit. While we were there, we did a couple of team members went out and did some Civil War stuff in Franklin, Tennessee. And like last week, this is weird because she didn't even know that we had anything scheduled. And she just got a thing on her iPhone that like said, "Hey, you went to Nashville 5 years ago. Do you want to look at these pictures?" So she pulled them up on her phone and started scrolling through and found some weird stuff. So we haven't shared these with anybody yet. And even
it's like
as
a reveal.
This is like,
reveal.
Yeah. Our team member, Julie, who's been with us for a long time, she's fantastic. I asked her if she's vaccinated. So we're like, "You want to come hang with us?" And she had to work today. Otherwise she probably would have come and presented this. But these, I believe called the McGavick Cemetery in Franklin, Tennessee, the McGavick family, John and Carrie, were responsible for, I guess, finding graves for Confederate soldiers. So they had reinterred 1,500 Confederate soldiers on their property. So they have a McGavick family cemetery. And Julie was walking when she captured these. So I'm going to kind of bring these up for you. So this is the family cemetery. Julie's walking here, and she's just snapping pictures. And the second picture, she just wasn't even paying. Like when you look at it like this and you scroll through on your iPhone, you wouldn't even think anything of it. Correct. But what was interesting when she zoomed in, and of course, once you zoom into anything, you start to lose quality right away. So there's a concept in when we're doing paranormal reviews called matrixing, which is like your eyes just kind of make sense of things. And so we always try to find ways to make sure that what we're looking at isn't matrixing. But as we start to scroll in here,
oh, I see it.
We've got somebody standing.
Yeah. Oh, I just got chills.
Right?
Yep. Gave us chills as well.
So what's weird is I have the timestamps on these photos, and they're a minute apart, the two photos. And they're pretty far apart. So somebody like in the cemetery or moving around the cemetery would have been noticed by Julie and the rest of the team that was with her that day. They didn't notice anything. And then the other photos I have, the first two are a minute apart. The next one's like almost 10 minutes as they're walking a little bit farther past. But they're walking this path, and they didn't see anything. It wasn't until just recently, like I said, that she zoomed in and she saw this figure standing in the cemetery. What's interesting is the red here, and this is where I'm having a hard time figuring out like if it's fake or not. Like not fake, but if it's not paranormal, it's something else that's causing these. But we're almost getting like this outline of a head. We could see this, and then what's interesting is this here. I mean, it is kind of translucent too, so you can almost see through the figure. Yes. But what's interesting is this here. It almost is like Civil War era.
Yeah. It's like a jacket.
Oops. Yeah.
So I did a little research on the McGavics. Found out that the McGavick home is one of the what they say most haunted locations in Tennessee, where Carrie McGavick would sit on people have seen her sitting on the family porch wearing pink, staring at the cemetery. They've also seen Confederate spirits rise from their graves inside the cemetery too. But I have not heard of anybody capturing Carrie inside the cemetery. What I thought was interesting though is once I did a little bit more research, and this is just me. So here's Carrie herself in the picture of her. And I thought it was interesting, too, if you look at the style of dress, in a black and white picture, we're not going to be able to see if they wore colors around their collars like this, but I thought that was interesting. The other thing is I pulled up a picture of John's grave, her husband's grave. And I just found this today, but I am almost certain that the picture we have is Carrie standing right here next to this stone, looking at her husband's grave.
Wow. Oh, okay. That is so amazing. I mean, it feels like it to me. I mean, I got the chills, which is always, for me, a validation.
Yeah.
It's a real spirit of some sort.
But yeah, if we pull that back up here, and I'll see if I can zoom back.
So when you go back to that picture that you have shown up now where you see the soldier, there is something on the left that is interesting.
Let me go back and find that.
They think it's her standing next to her.
Okay.
You think it's a soldier?
It feels more like a soldier to me.
This does?
Yeah, it feels like a male to me.
Oh, okay.
But again, I think you're right about the clothing. Yeah, the big hair. Do you see, when you're looking at that, see the far left? It looks like a gravestone that is transparent. Do you see that on the left bottom?
All the way to the left.
Right there.
Right there.
Right here. Yeah.
What is that? These are better than getting orbs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, it looks like something translucent, transparent.
Yeah, it looks like a gravestone.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's not a gravestone really there. Right?
No.
It would be interesting to see if there was something there 50 years ago.
Yeah.
That's still living a print.
Yeah, this made me want to go back to Nashville. So
yeah.
Once this
go
COVID
back.
stuff is done, we're going to start traveling again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what do you want to leave? I mean, are you invited to go to people's homes? Do you guys want to talk about your website, kind of how you do this for a business?
Yeah, I mean, it's not everything we do is completely non-for-profit, so we don't charge for any investigations or anything like that. If somebody has any questions and they want us to come help them, we do have an EVP helpline that people can call and leave messages, and Jenny and the rest of the case managers can get back and just kind of talk about what's going on. So, I mean, if there's houses or businesses, we try to stay within Illinois for some of that stuff just because it's easier for all of our schedules. We do travel out of state, but typically for our paranormal and, our paranormal trips.
Like a vacation.
Yeah, a little vacation for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for
Those
private
hunting
investigations, those are typically done, in people's, around this area. So.
Well, I have never spoken to ghost hunters, so this for me was just really a blessing and fun, and just love what you guys do and the curiosity that you bring out there. I know for Dana and I, it's just really an honor that you guys are willing to do this and spend today to come and share a little bit of your stories. But we'll let people know how to follow you, and so you can post more things and maybe reach out when they have some paranormal. And if you're out in Colorado, we can take you to some haunted places, including our house.
Yeah,
they have lots of activity.
Yeah, we're planning to get out there because our niece Heidi and our niece lives in Denver, so we're hoping to at some point make our way out there.
Please do look us up because we'd love to host you and give you some great haunting material.
Sure.
All right.
Be great.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Well, that was fascinating.
It is, because it's sort of outside my realm of what I do, but also people that connect with spirits. So it was kind of a fun thing.
They really go looking to disprove everything. They want to disprove that these happenings are ghosts or, but what we talked about, that it's more energy imprints, and you agree with that, that it's kind of more of an energy imprint that we can leave behind when we cross over. Even though we're not here anymore, or we're in the spirit realm.
I think it's people understanding that we're energy. And energy you can never destroy and never create. I mean, it's scientific. And when there are, I always say, thumbprints or energy that's left behind, it's not a negative thing or something that they haven't crossed over. I get asked a lot, like, are they stuck? And I always believe that I think humans in the human body are more stuck than those that are in the spirit world. But I also wanted to kind of give some tools that if you're feeling a lot of energy in your house, you're feeling that maybe kids are scared or you're uncomfortable and you kind of want to move that energy. It's sort of like making your guest uncomfortable so they'll leave. Yeah. My mom always said, don't make their room too comfortable. Don't feed them too well because you don't want them to stay too long.
Don't put the good pillows. Don't put the good pillows on the guest bed.
And that's sort of the same thing in the spirit world. If you're feeling uncomfortable, if you're going through a lot in your life and you just feel like this is one extra guest that you don't want, really look at the history of the home, look at the history of the land. I have friends that have purchased homes where someone had died in the house and they still feel their spirit. They're okay with that. They welcome it.
So I guess this is kind of twofold, right? Like if it's your loved one, people ask for signs. They want their loved ones to be around. They want them to see what they're going through and they want to feel them. But if it's somebody else's loved one, we're like, I don't want them in my house.
And people have to realize that's what I do for a living. I don't, I'm communicating with other people's loved ones that are in our home.
Well, your abilities.
Your abilities, yeah. So to me, it's like the more you can kind of connect with these energies and kind of, way they're there, that's going to help you expand yours. But it's also depending on what you believe, what you feel, what you want to deal with, and what's going on.
So
in your
number
life.
one, you tell people not
the Ouija board.
Yeah, those give me the creepiest feeling.
The only reason I don't like people, I don't mind if people use tools, and we have them on our website, and I bring tools into a home or a business when I'm doing work. But the Ouija board was kind of founded on really negative energy, and I just don't know what the intention is with those for people that are using them. them. So I don't recommend them, but if it's something you're really comfortable with and you've used for a long time, that's great. It's just something I would not highly recommend, is to connect with that. Our whole soul, our whole body is an antenna. We can connect. It's just whether we open up enough, we process that, we don't get into fear and things like that. You don't need all these devices. The devices are just tools to help validate if you're getting something.
So what would you say are the top 5 tools you can use to help you with energy that you're feeling that you don't want in your home? Let's say it's either residual energy, or you think it's a ghost, or you think it's something you don't want in your
guest.
home. An unwelcome guest. Yeah.
And to me, that's the way to look at it. So, you can do things by even just asking them to leave, and unless that you can say, if you need to be here for a reason, let me know. Most of the time, they don't have a message for you. People want to know, is there a message for me? They're just kind of like, hi, guess what I mean? Well, because I've done that here all the time.
You're saying just ask them to leave.
Yeah, ask them to leave first.
So
of all.
verbally ask
them to leave. Okay. If that's not happening, it's like a relative that you don't want around anymore. You can do things like a ceremony of any sorts, and if you have a religious background, you can use any of those kind of things. But you can
mean
use
like holy water.
Holy water, yeah. You can burn sage. You can do drumming. You can do great music. You can basically say that I really don't want you to. Unless you want to pay rent, you got to kind of leave.
So number 2 would be do a ceremony of some sort, whether it's burning sage, so saging your home, which you have the home cleansing kits that have the sage and the crystals.
So if anyone feels like they really need that cleansing, and that cleansing can even come from a change in your life. Let's say you're getting divorced, or a child has moved out, or there's just a big change. You can bring in that cleansing kit just to kind of get rid of that energy maybe you don't want in your house and you want to start over. So it's for any type of energy that you're looking for. One thing that I've learned through this process is having a big fun party. And I know we have COVID, but you can invite a few friends over that, have been safe from COVID, or that are
Can it be on Zoom?
It can be on Zoom. And have a little party. If you drink, bring out some champagne, play some great music, have some good food.
But with intention, right?
With the intention of bringing up the vibe and allowing that spirit or soul to move on. I know I had one reading, this was years ago, and went to their house, and it was just so heavy. And I said, play this music all the time and really have fun and party. And within a few days, the energy shifted because they brought up all this energy that was positive. And
you don't mean when you say party, you can include alcohol, but it doesn't have to. You mean like turn on music, dance around the room, have fun,
light
watch
candles,
comedy.
Watch comedy, yeah. Mm-hmm. It could be anything that you believe is your party. You can paint, you can read a great book, you can have friends over and play a game. It's just bringing up that vibe and that energy.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing is most people know what makes them feel good and what makes them feel sad. And it's just remembering that those things that you want to bring in is going to be helpful. If you're feeling a lot of energy in your house that might be negative, is there a lot of stress? Has someone been sick? Is there been unemployment issues? What things have been going on in your life that you feel all of a sudden this other entity? And what we can think sometimes is, well, it's the entity that's doing this, when it really is attracting that energy to say, this is what's going on. So it's like
so you're attracting it. Mm-hmm. You're mirroring.
You're mirroring.
The universe is mirroring what you're projecting.
Yeah. So how do you feel like when let's make chocolate chip cookies and milk and have fun, whatever that is, to kind of shift that and put the intention that you're going to be okay. Because I think when we live in that fear-based place and feel like there's no hope, that's when all that other energy can be almost a distraction for us versus understanding why they're there.
Okay. So one other thing I think that you've talked about is things of the earth, like stone or gems or rocks. And I know, like in your kit, you have selenite, which cleanses energy in your home. You also have amethyst, which raises the vibration. Mm-hmm. And so placing things in certain places in your home will change the energy or vibe, or help you change that energy and vibe as well.
And the great way to look at this, to make it simplistic, is when you go into a room, whether it's a bedroom or a craft room or a bathroom or a kitchen, you look at it and think, what makes me feel good here? Where should the artwork go? How about the lighting? What is the texture, the colors? All those things mean something. We went to a friend's house yesterday briefly, and he collects rocks. And I was just like, wow. I mean, he had these large rocks in his house, which probably really helps ground him. And he's very calm. He's always just very grounded.
Very chill.
Very chill. And so nature is Mother Earth knows how to cleanse, and she knows how to change energy. So anything that you get from Mother Earth is going to really help those things too. And intuitively, we all know where things feel like, as we've been changing things in our home, we go put something there and we go, well, we're not sure. And then we move it and we go, yeah, that feels right. So to me, we can put things in a box and say, this is what you can do, but your intuition is going to tell you what feels right.
So we have, that's like number 4, bury the rocks or bring in
Mother Earth.
Stones, bring in Mother Earth.
Clean water, fresh flowers, plants.
What would be the 5th thing?
Well, just before we go on, Dana is that person that has at least 50 plants that are all very healthy. So bringing in live, healthy plants and healthy animals is definitely a positive thing too.
We try to we try to follow your feng shui practices with the Western feng shui guide, which
it's very simplistic.
It's very simple to understand. And people can find that blog on your website, but we try to place plants in places that bring in life in certain places, like our health corner
Well, recently, Dana's been working on our health corner because in the last year, I've been in the hospital twice and getting healthier, but she completely shifted her office space. Yeah. And brought in some plants that are going crazy. We just got some artwork today. And part of it is just to change the energy and the intention. And that's what all of this is about is, clarity, intention, and things like that.
Right. So one of the things I've heard you talk about, too, is using salt around the perimeter of your home.
Yeah, there's so many things that people can do. And it's, again, I've always told people it's your intention. So if you're really feeling there is some negative, heavy energy, whether it's from the land or who's lived in the house before or what's been going on, you can take salt. What's kind of salt I'm thinking of? It's
Himalayan.
You can do that. And then there's also another salt. I'll think about it in just a minute. But it's just
Epsom salt.
You go around the perimeter either of your building, your house or the land or whatever that looks like for you. Can be the front door and kind of going, the areas that you can connect with. And again, you're saying a mantra or an intention of that this house is protected. There are boundaries there. So energy cannot leave. Or energy can leave, they can't come in. But again, at the same time, you want to make sure that the energy is set up that you're trying to remove things that are not good. And it might be that you have some negative things in your house. You may have things that people gave you that you're no longer in a relationship with, and you want to keep those things. So the salt that you put around your home is to really say, these are my boundaries, this is my place, and you're only can be invited in.
Right. So it's just, again, setting your intention. It's not necessarily a magical trick, but it's setting your intention so that you and the energy around you have clear boundaries.
And a lot of us don't. I mean, I know I've had to learn over time to be more vocal about boundaries, and I still struggle with those things, but it's also okay just saying, you know what, I need to make some changes and creating whatever symbolism or tradition that you feel is right for you.
Yeah, well, that was so fun talking to the guys on...
It was great.
On, the ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, and that was really cool. So,
hopefully we can have more stories from them in the future. We invited them, of course, you heard, to come to our house because it's got lots of energy.
It's
going
haunted,
on.
yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us once again on Spirited Straight Talk.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Spirited Straight Talk. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so that you get notified of new shows. We'd also love it if you'd leave us a review. And let's connect. Visit debshepard.com for more insights, support, workshops, and to book a session with Deb. Plus, enter to get a free reading with Deb. All you have to do is sign up for the email list and you'll automatically be entered. Just go to debshepherd.com. That's DEBSHEPPARD.com.